We were even thinking, James, as I remember that night, like, is anything going to get going at all?
Yeah, I remember.
Because Ned went to the bathroom. And he went up to the newsroom and was like, I don't even know if anything's going to happen. And that's immediately there was a debris ball like within a scan or two.
Yeah, it went from not tornado warns to tornadoes.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of my questions is talking about the debris ball, because I remember that was kind of All right, Mr. Brandt. So you kind of were just talking about it a little bit. So tell me what you remember a little bit about the weather conditions leading up to the event.
Yeah, it was a hot day. It was very humid. Everything was just right. The Storm Prediction Center had put us in a high risk for severe weather. And so in the late afternoon and evening, into the early evening, we were like, is anything going to actually break on through and actually develop into a large cumulonimbus cloud? And it wasn't happening. But all of a sudden, we looked at one storm, and it started to develop some, and it was out in western Pulaski County. And all of a sudden, within a couple of scans of the radar, it grew very, very quickly. It had explosive growth, and all of a sudden, the rotation signature was unbelievable with it. And within a scan or two after that, we actually saw the debris ball, the signature that storm pulling stuff up into the atmosphere that's not just rain or hailstones. It's foreign objects. It's branches of trees and homes and roofs. And it went from 10 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour very quickly.
So, I mean, I'm local to Arkansas. I grew up here. Tornadoes are a way of life, especially in the springtime. I grew up kind of storm chasing a little bit myself, but I had never heard the term debris ball until this particular storm. So what about this, like, explain a debris, like how that happens, why it's so rare, stuff like that.
Well, because large tornadoes are so rare. And you can have a tornado and it doesn't really elevate. It's kind of like a big vacuum cleaner. It doesn't elevate the stuff that it picks up. It kind of throws it around. But if it starts to really suck it up into the air, then the radar sees this debris within the cloud itself, within the rotation. And so a lot of times you need a bigger tornado to do that. Not always. You can have an EF2 or certainly an EF3 that will have a debris ball with it. But the larger tornadoes are just more rare. And we don't talk about a debris ball all the time, but it is one of the things that we talk about, even if it's a weaker tornado, even if it's brief tornado, we're looking for just something in there that would indicate there's something being suspended aloft. Large tornadoes, thank goodness, don't happen very much, and the debris ball was unmistakable. It was a large area of just trash, just things up that had been pulled up into the cloud.
Perfect. So again, Arkansas, no stranger to spring tornadoes. So what about this particular storm caused such a strong, long track and violent tornado?
Well, let's do it again. All the ingredients were there. There was plenty of fuel. The wind field at the surface and aloft was just right. We don't get that all the time here. And that storm was all out by itself. Remember when I said there weren't many storms? There weren't any showers really as we went into the afternoon. There were in the morning. But by the evening hours, it was just sitting out there by itself. And one thing that tornado-producing storms love is they don't want any competition. They want to be their own thing. We call them discrete cells. They're out there by themselves. They have unlimited resources. They have all the inflow into them that they want, and that's why they can grow so big. There's no competition from anything else, and that storm checked all those boxes.
Crazy. Okay. Let's see. So were you originally scheduled to work that night, or did you end up coming in simply because of how bad these storms were slated to be?
Oh, well, we knew that if there was something that happened, it'd be late afternoon and evening, and my shift would end normally at 5:30 in the evening, but we go until severe weather is over at Channel 7, and certainly that was one night that we were going to be there until the storm threat died out. Thankfully, the storm threat died out not long after. There was a line of storms that came through later on, but they weren't severe for the most part at all. It was these storms out in advance of the front. So yeah, I wasn't normally scheduled, but we shifted my schedule.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Let's see. So we kind of already talked about this one. So you had mentioned that there was originally that whole night there was like 5 tracks of potential storms, potential tornadoes. This one was really the only one that produced. Did it kind of follow the same track the entire time? Did it ever deviate a little bit?
Well, I mean, small deviations, and that's not uncommon for one supercell storm. But the supercell part of it went on for a while. There were 5 different tracks from that parent storm. So that means there were 5 tornadoes, but it was one storm that produced all of those. The long, strong track, and then another one on up to the northeast of it. I believe it was out west of Searcy, and then shorter track, smaller tornadoes that touched down 4 times after the first one touched down.
Crazy. Okay. All right, we've already talked about the debris ball. We've already talked about the storm. Okay, so here we are 10 years later. How far do you feel storm predictions have come in the state of Arkansas? Do you feel people tend to heed the warnings now a little bit more since this storm hit?
Oh, I think undoubtedly. And I think the tornado in Valonia in 2011 might have been that modern era first real wake-up call. And that was a little smaller tornado, but it did do a lot of damage in Valonia. So I think everybody knew to take this one very seriously. That doesn't mean that we will eliminate fatalities with tornadoes. It's just not going to happen. But I think everybody was paying attention, and I think subsequent tornadoes since then, and thank goodness we haven't had a really, really strong one since then, but I think people are much more aware. I think there are more ways now to communicate tornado warnings. And I just think everybody takes it seriously because we know exactly where it is. And television especially is, we can show you exactly where the rotation is. There's no mystery. I often say to school kids, there's no mystery in where that rotation is in the storm. Now, we may catch it right at the beginning or right at the end, but I think I think severe weather forecasting is much better than it was. I don't think it'll ever be perfect, but it's much better. Days in advance, we're looking at storm systems that will be severe, and we can put out that warning way sooner. So not only do people trust a severe weather forecast more, they should trust it more. And they for sure, when something's happening, should tune it in to the best place to watch, which is our broadcast from here. So either broadcast or on our app or on our website, because that is what's happening in real time. And no other medium does anything like us interpreting that radar.
Perfect. Let's see. Have you been back to the area in the 10 years since to kind of see how the communities have rebuilt a little bit?
Yeah, occasionally I have gone back to Mayflower, of Valonia, those areas. I think it's remarkable what those communities have done as far as rebuilding. And you know, time heals wounds. The trees begin to grow back. There's still that tornado scar there. It'll be there for decades, but it lessens and lessens. And the emotional impact lessens some, but it never goes away. And so it's just that constant reminder that we have to live with tornadoes here in Arkansas. It will always have that. It will always be a part of our springtime and even fall time here in the state. But I am impressed about how people are resilient, they build back, and then are just more prepared in the future.
Perfect. All right. Actually, you just covered my last question too, so that's it.
Oh, okay. Great.